Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Unsponsored Guitar Reviews. Today we're going to talk about this guitar, the Ibanez RGDR4327 Prestige. Now, we're going to listen to how it sounds, and then I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of this instrument. So if you don't have time to listen to all that, just whatever you need, timestamps in the description below. Anyways, let's jump right into it. Alright, and there you have it. That's how it sounds. Now let's talk about each aspect of this instrument piece by piece. Now the first thing you notice is this giant body bevel on top right here. It's pretty comfortable. It feels different than the typical forearm cut that you'd see on the Ibanez RG, or the Fender Stratocaster, all those clones, because it contours with the body. It's not like a huge big deal, like it feels pretty comfortable, it's really good. But if you're used to playing guitars like that, it's gonna take just a little bit of getting used to. The body itself is a nice quality piece of mahogany, has a significant weight to it, very resonant, feels pretty good. Maybe not the lightest guitar out there, definitely not the lightest guitar out there, but it's what you would expect. You know, you got your maple neck, no surprise there. You've got your ebony fretboard, no surprise there. One cool feature about it is that it has the Luminlay, not just the side dots, but on the fretboard itself. So that's actually unexpectedly good, very nice. Like you don't expect like, okay, whatever, but it does come in handy every now and then. One unexpected thing about this guitar, especially at this price point, is that while you have things like the ebony fretboard, you've got the mahogany body, all that, the metal stuff people like, you've got the nickel frets on here, you don't have the stainless steel frets. So that's a little confusing why they wouldn't just go ahead and do that. Maybe the division of the factory that works on these guitars, they're just tooled still to use the nickel frets. They don't have the tools to handle the steel yet, maybe. But it is kind of odd, especially in this day and age where there's so many other alternate options, many of them which are cheaper, that actually have the stainless steel frets. Another confusing thing about this guitar is the tuners. They're non-locking tuners. I'm not sure why Ibanez refuses to put the locking tuners on their Prestige line and their J-Custom line, but they have them on the Premium line. You know, there is some sentiment out there that the tuners, you don't need locking tuners because you have a locking nut, but when you're changing strings, the thing is, the strings will slip while you're tuning them up, you know, and you're adjusting the floating style bridge, and you keep tuning them up and down, and the string will slip a bit, so it does get annoying to not have those. Speaking of the bridge itself is pretty solid. It's a 7-string version of the Low Pro, which is glorious. It works like you'd expect. I do have it blocked, but there was a little bit of time where I didn't, and I'd play with it. And it's it's fun, you know, you can dive bomb with the 7th string. That is interesting. You know, in terms of control layout, it's pretty simple. You've got the single volume knob, you've got the 3-way switch, pretty simple. It is a bit tough to hit the 3-way switch given it's so small. It's not like a giant blade switch that you can do quickly, so you definitely have to be intentional. I guess the spirit of this guitar, it's meant to be like metal bridge pickup, but then maybe sometimes you'll switch, but usually you'll just switch your presets. You'll switch the tone you're playing through for your clean instead of actually switching the bridge pickup. So maybe that's the spirit behind that. Speaking of cleans, I did notice that the cleans on this sound better when you're in the middle position than when you're in the neck position, at least to my ears anyway. Like it sounded a bit dull in the neck position. In the middle position it sounds just right. These are the stock pickups, the Fusion Edge. This is the 7-string version of them, and they sound pretty good. They're pretty usable in a mix. Listening back to it, maybe when you do like a open droning chord of just the open string, you know, power chord on the low A. I have it tuned a whole step down. It does sound a bit soft. It doesn't have that modern cut to it unless you add that in with EQ or something like that in your signal. But I noticed the 6-string version of these pickups, they sound, at least to my ears, a bit better, a bit more on top of it. So while these sound like really, really good, they're a bit more dark than their 6-string counterparts. Something else to mention is that it has that angled like gem output jack, like see right here. Now it looks pretty cool in that the cable just turns around here and goes under the strap naturally. And if you step on the cable, it's not gonna be pulling down, so it's not gonna pull out of the jack as much. So it seems cool, but it's actually not my favorite thing, because if you're sitting classical style, this output jack, this cable will actually go into your leg. So it's very uncomfortable, very inconvenient, very annoying. You could try to get an angled jack, but then it would be going like that way. I don't know how well that would work out, so I'm not really a fan of this. If you stand up all the time, when you play your instrument all the time standing up like this, then it's no problem and it looks cool and it looks clean. But if you're sitting down playing classical style and you're doing like a recording session and you just have to practice it classical style, and then this cable is bumping into you, that's one more annoyance. One more kind of, I don't know, what would you call it, odd, unusual thing about this guitar is that, well, the fretboard is ebony, which makes sense because a lot of people like ebony on the fretboard. The top is Richlite. It's not like a matte paint, it's actually just Richlite. So that seems a bit odd. Like, why would you have Richlite, all this Richlite on top, but then you'd have the ebony fretboard? I guess maybe ebony sells better than Richlite in terms of fretboards, but I wonder what the thought process was for having Richlite on top of the body. Maybe you could let me know, because I'm not sure. All right, and now let's talk about the playability, especially of the neck. I've kind of been putting off talking about this because, spoiler alert, I'm not really a fan. You know, I have all these Ibanez guitars. I've played Ibanez for basically all, if not most, of my guitar playing career. I'm a big fan of Ibanez, but when it comes to their 7 strings, I'm actually not really a fan of their 7 strings. You know, the 6-string guitars, they've got the flat feel and they feel thin. You know, they can fatigue your hand a bit, but they do feel kind of natural. This guitar, at least to me and how I play, feels extremely uncomfortable. And it just wears down my hand quickly. I get inflammation in my hand when I'm trying to shred, which is kind of what this is for. You know, in the demo song, I didn't really shred that much because it was kind of uncomfortable. It kind of hurt trying to hold out the power chords and other playing stuff where you might accidentally put your thumb over the neck, which, by the way, thumb over the neck is a valid play style, but Ibanez aren't really designed for that. They're more designed for this thumb behind the neck kind of shred stuff. But I think the problem for me is, instead of the neck feeling like a natural, this neck was designed for 7 strings and it feels like it has a natural curve to the back of it, the neck here feels like it was originally designed as a 6-string profile, and then in order to fit it to 7 strings, they just stretched out the middle bit without factoring in curve or anything at all. That's what it feels like. So it feels more like, instead of playing a nice guitar neck, it feels like I'm playing like more a flat rectangle. There's probably people out there who do like it, and if you like that, good for you, power to you. I would recommend this guitar for you. But for me, I would need something a bit more like thin C-shaped, you know, a bit less shoulder on the edges. So, would I recommend this guitar? Yes. Yes, I would recommend this guitar. If this is the kind of guitar you're looking for, and you're thinking about it, and it's in your price range, your price point, I'd say yes, go for it. With the caveat of you're okay with how the pickups sound and you're okay with the nickel frets. If you're looking for something that doesn't have a flat neck, maybe like a more modern C or a different neck profile, I'd say this guitar isn't really gonna do it for you. When it comes to things like feel and playability, if there's a feature that doesn't agree with how your hand responds, how your body responds, it's not really something you can learn to love, because it's always gonna be standing in your way. So while it's becoming more difficult to try out guitars in this day and age, where everything is moving to online sales, you buy it, it's shipped to you, you play it, and then maybe you return it. It can be difficult to try out guitars, but if you haven't played a modern Ibanez 7-string before and you're thinking about it, I would recommend maybe trying one out and see if the neck is right for you. There's lots of other 7-string options. You know, there's Schecters, which have a bit less shoulder, but it is a similar neck, but it's a little nicer to my hand. I'm a fan of the Solar guitars. I have the Solar T1.7. That's the most comfortable 7-string neck I've ever played. Super thrilled with how that turned out. I have played the Stephen Carpenter, the 7-string baritone tele before, and to my hand, that kind of had the same problem as this, but that was like last decade. You really can't be making your body fit to the instrument. You're just gonna end up with pain, potential injury. You're not gonna have fun playing your instrument, you know. And why do we even do this? Yes, to make music, but also because it's fun. You know, it's enjoyable to do. It's a lot of work, so if it is painful and it is unpleasant, you're gonna end up just not doing it. Maybe doing something else. Music is supposed to make us happy, and so are the instruments. So there you have it. Did I answer all your questions? Do you have anything else you're wondering about this guitar? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.